back in 2001, when we first began working with Gary Gygax, he pitched this wonderful series of books to us. He called them the Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds, and what he envisioned was this encyclopedic set of books for role players, writers, game designers, the whole lot of us, that we could use in making our games, creating our adventures, writing stuff for publishable content, whatever it may be. And there was really no end to what he envisioned this series to be. We eventually published The Canting Crew, The World Builder, Living Fantasy, 7 volumes in total. We had another 3 that were ready to go to print, another 3 or 4 after that we were working on. So the series was really open-ended. We are bringing these back. That's what this Kickstarter is. We've got 7 books online ready to be printed. We've got another 3 right after that we want to get it minimally out as we were working on them at the time. Those will be out definitely in PDF, depending on how well the Kickstarter does, and maybe even more than that once we kind of push beyond the necessary stretch goals and all that mess. But welcome to the what we're calling the Gary Gygax World Building Archives, and please give us your support. Share it around if you can. Pledge if you can. Whatever you need to do, whatever you can do for us and the memory of Gary Gygax, we very much appreciate it.
Troll. Troll Lord Games. Join the fray.
Although, Kent, my last post should have put you in a better mood.
Here we are. Live.
Oh.
When Chuck says we're going live in 2 seconds, it means we're going live in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I looked up and I was like, oh, there goes the count. So,
Okay.
what's up, trolls?
Here we are.
How is everybody today? Everybody doing all right? Got the usual.
Doing great, doing wonderful.
Doing
Couldn't be
fantastic.
better. Hardly an inconvenience.
Yes.
I tell you.
I feel terrible.
What up, Frank? So, couple
But other than
things.
that,
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you okay? You good?
Oh, you
He looks
didn't.
very relaxed, doesn't he? Right.
who, me?
So today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about this Kickstarter. It's about to wind down. We've got Dan on, who has been around. He was around with the conception of the first set of the GFW. Wow, I forgot the name of it finally. and of course our new version, which is basically just updated, but it's the World Builders Archive. So he's going to be talking a little bit to you guys about that and asking some questions. I'll be taking questions and throwing them at him from you guys in the crowd, and we may have some questions as well. While we're doing this, there is a giveaway going on. If you want to enter it, just come over here and follow us. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you'll have to follow that link right there. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I forgot. It doesn't like to share on Facebook, so I have to go over here to Restream. I'm not even sure if it'll do it then, but we'll see. We'll drop it in there real quick for everybody. But if you want to come over, we can't do all the platforms, unfortunately. The bot only works on Twitch. But that aside, we'll draw those at the end of the night when we're done here. And anyways, I'm Chuck Cumbo. I work with Director of Community Support and Outreach and Exposure and all kinds of stuff. Next to me here is Davis Chenault, who is the brother of Steve below him. He was a co-creator of Castle Crusades. I've already talked a little bit about Dan, who's right below me here. He was a writer for several of the books and helped run little things, and he's running our project for not only World Builders Archive, but also Castle Zygi that's coming up soon. And, of course, the other one down there on the lower right, the Troll Lord himself, so Stephen Chenault. And that's it. All right, we can get started. Let's see.
Wait, I got a comment.
Please comment away while I look and see if there's been any questions yet.
Dyspeptic is a freaking great word. Do not, huh?
What's the word?
Dyspeptic.
Dyspeptic. What does it mean?
Indigestion. Like,
I kind of guessed that.
It is a better word than indigestion. I'll give you that one.
yes,
for sure.
no, yeah. But it basically, I mean, I think like technically it means indigestion, but it also means other things. I mean, it carries with it that whole like, because I always say
Right.
I have a dyspeptic worldview, you know, and it's a worldview of like indigestion, whatever, you know what I'm saying. Anyway,
I was going to say it has metaphorical potential.
Hmm?
It has metaphorical potential, definitely. I was
Yes.
inspired just hearing it.
yes,
Metaphor
I love the
interesting.
word dyspeptic.
And that's it.
That's our word
All right,
of
we
the
can
day.
get started.
Septic. That's it. We're done.
Let's
Wait,
see.
I got a
So did
comment.
Sparky,
Oh my
you
God.
You guys are going to
Send
hear me
away
twice
while
here
we
for a
make
second
the
because
motion.
Facebook's
Dyspeptic
decided to.
is a freaking great
Who
word.
used it?
Sparky,
not
he said,
eat-
I'm sorry, I'm
What's the word?
dyspeptic. Is that-
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Decided to.
Is a freaking
Sparky, you win. So Chuck's trying to get us live on Facebook too. Is that what's going on, Chuck?
No, I came over Facebook. This restream thing that we use is great. They can see us, but literally any messages I send over to Facebook doesn't go to Facebook, so they see nothing. All they can do is hear and watch. So they reply over there. We can see their questions. So I had to put a little stipulation in there for those guys to know if you want to come and get in a raffle, you got to come over to Twitch. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's the best I can do behind that. All right, so let's get started. Dan, can you just tell us how you got involved with the whole Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds and working with Gary originally? How did that start?
Well, it's funny when you ask me that question. I imagined myself as like a petitioner at a Buddhist monastery at the top of the Himalayas, waiting for years to make it into the honorary ranks of the enlightened.
I love
see.
that imagery. Okay.
Go on.
And honestly, if I had known where Gary lived, I might have camped out outside and been a petitioner. Or having watched Wayne's World as many times as I did, I would have been like, I'm not worthy. And I don't know that he liked that movie at all, so I don't know that it would have worked. But from what I hear, he might have been on his porch playing with some people or talking anyway, so he just would have seen this odd young man sitting out in his front yard and wondered what the hell he was doing there.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, it's because I'm a fan, dude. But actually, how I met him was I found him on the internet. And it was, what was it? Gygax.com, something that was completely unintuitive like that, right? I actually really liked his first website. It was when he was first developing Legendary Adventures.
Oh, I see.
And I expected that he lived in another dimension or, in some sort of ivory tower somewhere. And I thought, well, if I wrote to him, would he actually write back? To me, it kind of felt like if you're, I think I've made this analogy before, but if you're a musician and you like David Bowie and you think you write him a letter, he's going to write you back, right? Felt like that. But Gary was really nice. And yeah, he rewrote me back and told me what he was doing. And the thing that struck me about him is that he was very much just one of us, a gamer. That's what he wanted to do. He was personable and enthusiastic. And I thanked him for giving me an excuse to play with action figures after the age of 12, as if I really needed an excuse.
All right.
In my
funny.
email. And he wrote back and said, thank you. I don't really know what you mean, but thank you. And I asked, probably very sheepishly, hey, is there any way I can get an autographed book? And this is my favorite part. He said, sure, if you send me a carton of unfiltered Camel cigarettes.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was in Pennsylvania at the time. I ran out to the Wawa and like, by God, I'm going to get this man a carton of unfiltered Camel cigarettes. And I did. And I shipped it to him. And he sent me back 3 autographed books. It was the Mythos series.
Oh.
And I was super excited that. And just the fact that that was such a funny and audacious thing for him to do. I had, by the time I met him at Gen Con, which was incidentally the first year I met Steven and Davis, or I can't even say I met you guys there. I saw you and you really stood out to me the way you were handing out those
I bet they
specialty
did.
dice. And this was 24 years ago at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And the energy of that booth. In fact, I think your booth at that time that day was the only one that I passed by and really noticed there was some sort of energy or different about you, and I I
You
remember
know,
that.
it's funny about those booths. The early booths at Gen Con during the D20 days, they became, because some of the other D20 publishers were so stringent, and Davis and I were a little bit less stringent. the, the booth became a place for other booth people when they weren't working to hang out. I remember people from Necromancer would come over, Fast Forward would come over, Fantasy Flight, just hanging out in the troll booth because we were just cracking jokes. I remember Casey set up a whole game. He ran a game behind our.
Really?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Too.
He got bored and started running a game. Yeah, our booths were. The people would bring and leave their backpacks there. Hey, can I leave this backpack here? So we had this pile of backpacks behind
That's
the booth.
hilarious.
Yeah, and we gave out. Do you have any of those dice?
Yes, actually. So
What
Dan,
kind of
did you
dice
get
were
any?
they?
Oh,
we
they were.
did,
If let's see if I remember correctly, were they black or am I imagining that?
Black with orange
They were-
tips.
so we
Oh,
did
yeah.
two.
Yes.
The first ones were in 2001. So now if you saw it in 2000, or in 2000, the first ones were black with orange pips. Those are my favorite. And if you saw us then, it was a little bit different of a booth because Matt Golden was running the booth and he wouldn't let us eat or drink in the booth. He was,
Really? Oh, this is some.
oh
funny
yeah, he
stuff.
was stringent. I remember yelling
What
at
a
Davis.
troll! Oh wait,
Yes,
that's
he's
not it.
like-
That's
He was like, "No nachos in the booth, Davis." And Davis started laughing, and Matt goes, "I'm not joking." It was really funny. But
So
by
I sat down
2001,
into the aisle and ate my nacho.
by 2001, we were Mac wasn't at the con, and we were going crazy. So 2000 and in 2000 we did the black dice with orange pips. I don't have that one of those in my desk, but in 2000,
well, that was the one that.
we did the green one. And I think Chuck just acquired one of these at Gary. No, so that was Chuck holding.
Is that it?
No, not that one.
Not that one.
Not quite.
So we attempted to replicate the black and orange, but so if you have a black
Oh.
6-sided with Troll Lord games on it, and it's
Oh,
orange
no.
pips.
I don't have one
I've
of
got a
those.
few somewhere. I'm not sure where they're.
Did you say I should have got a green one from?
Someone came up to me with a green one that they had just purchased from somebody. I thought that was you. But
No, I wished it was me.
I got about 20.
So to me it was. Nah, I suddenly have a quote from Ghostbusters in my head. You know, call it fate, call it karma, right? Like, I met you guys before you started working with them, I believe. I don't.
Yeah.
I know that he was sharing some stuff from Legendary Adventure with me, and I was working with him and Chris Clark. He had formed the Hika Forge company, and I was writing some articles for their little zine. In LA was pretty inspirational too. Well, when he started working with you, that was absolutely the match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Your visions and ideas sort of coalesced very, very well. So how I got involved with World Builder was, well, by then I had just been corresponding with him pretty regularly, joined his list server, and had talked about writing an adventure for Legendary Adventure, which I was working on. And then one day, I think this is after Canton Crew had already been published, I was thinking about ideas, and I thought about the appendices that he wrote famously in the first edition AD&D books, and how he was just unbelievably erudite and had such an encyclopedic knowledge of things. So I suggested to him that he write a book just like that. And also I had found a book that was called, I think it was literally just called The Descriptionary. And I know that Jim Ward recently did a Storyteller's Thesaurus, and there were ideas like that combined with an idea of the appendices into one book where it's a brainstormer's guide. And I thought, who better to write such a thing than him? So I suggested it to him. And the funny thing was, he wrote back and said, "That's a great idea. Why don't you do it?"
This sounds like someone else I know.
Yeah, I think I use that a lot. That's a fantastic
Yeah.
idea. Go write it.
And I thought, wait a minute, I wanted Gary to. I wrote back to him. I said, no.
No, I'm done. I'm out.
Well,
I'm done.
I mean, that's this is before. I mean, yeah, there was some research on the internet, but
Oh yeah, no, there wasn't. No.
it just wasn't the same. I knew I'd actually have to work. Well, regardless, he wrote back to me, and he started out with a list, and it was just one list. I don't remember whether it was, building construction materials or whatever it was, but the idea was that it wasn't going to be random tables. It was going to be thematically listed things, items that you could use for a GM who was just trying to populate description in their, whether it's a written adventure module or on the fly or whatever. Yeah, that one. That
Yep,
book
still
right
on the
there.
desk.
Yep.
Just to let everyone
start
know
out-
how valuable this is. It is still on the desk.
Got one of those. So he sent me that, and I remember when he wrote, I wish I still had his emails. That's just a moment of silence for my sadness on that count. But anyway, he had written, "Now look what you've made me do." Because I guess once that started to germinate in his mind, he just couldn't stop. So I guess I triggered one of his idiosyncrasies, and but I thought, okay, well, I can co-author it, right? So then I went back and rediscovered what a library was, and just for like a year, just compiled information with him back and forth, and like even my wife at the time was contributing like lists of herbs and like the connotations magically would have for it, and inspiration from all kinds of places. These are the kinds of things that people could find readily anyway, but the idea was to make it accessible, organized in one place. And that's kind of where I think the entire series started to go. It's like, okay, are we trying to reinvent the wheel, or are we trying to compile into these encyclopedic books what is not just exclusively the vision of Gary Gygax, but the fantasy genre as it has evolved over the years, guided by his vision, but also broad enough in scope that it could be used by anyone for any game of that genre or milieu. And his interests and his ability to transcend whatever genre was evident. Look at Cosmos Builder and Nation Builder. I mean, with these books combined, you could write a novel. You wouldn't even have to do adventure modules. I mean, it's just an endless trove of inspiration.
Right.
And one of the things that brought a lot of us into role-playing games in general, I think, was not just the socialization aspect, but the fact that it promoted learning, the fact that it sparked the imagination for the appetite for knowledge. And that's something that I don't know if I wouldn't venture to say that it's missing from modern versions of role-playing games. I don't think that's the case, but there was something unique about his early books where it was almost like reading an esoteric tome. I mean, he was not afraid to use big words, right? He wasn't concerned about whether a 10-year-old could know what the word agathocological meant.
Right.
Exactly.
And by the way, when he first used that word, agathocological, I tried to look it up on the internet. It didn't even exist on the internet. I had to go to a 100-year-old Merriam-Webster's dictionary that was in the place I was working at the time, which was an old sheet music publisher, and looked it up in that giant tome.
Yeah.
And like, by God, this man came up with a word that I couldn't find anywhere. You know, Agoth, good, Keiko. I don't know. Maybe it's from Latin. I probably would mispronounce it, but the mixture of good and evil. As all we are. But yeah, so he doesn't shy away from that in these books either. I mean,
No,
the
no.
way it's presented, it's it's not that it's not reader friendly. It's that it will draw you in to want to know more about these sorts of things,
Well,
and
I
that
think that's
connects naturally from one to the other.
yeah. I think that's one of the importance, and one of the well, it's Gygaxian prose, I suppose, is what we call it, which is a throwback. It's sort of he uses a lot of archaic words, okay, but words that existed for a very good reason because they were very precise and they described very particular things, and you don't find them in common parlance anymore. So I know when I was first time I was reading anything Gary wrote, well, the DMG specifically, I was having to look up several words, look up new words, and that
Me
just
too.
drives you further and further and further. It just pulls you in. Well, not everyone. I mean, there's some people who don't like it, but it pulls a lot of people in. It pulled me in just to keep looking further and further and further. Yeah, I miss that Gygaxian prose, and I don't read enough, as to your observation about whether or not modern gaming has that type of prose,
Yeah, I
I
definitely
don't know. I
don't
don't
want
keep
to
up
try
enough.
to insinuate anything about like
No.
that it's not as intellectual or something. Like that's definitely not the point I was trying to drive to. But that he had a style unto his own
Yeah.
that was inspiring.
Yeah.
I think to that intellectual point, I think we can all agree that Castles and Crusades is really the only game that can properly educate you in anything that you want to know. I think we can all agree with that.
I would agree 100%. In fact, if you haven't read the player's handbook, I don't even know how you can function in a modern.
That's what I'm saying. I
mean,
had to fix the odometer thing, whatever, on the car, and I got my PHP out. Let it there. I got the solution. Good to go.
In fact, that you have encouraged me, Dan. I am going to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into my old dictionaries and stuff, and just start pulling out the craziest words and using them, because some of them are beautiful words, and they're just
Davis, you're half joking because you actually have a huge vocabulary. But the thing is, and this is what Dan's point, is that there's words out there that describe many, many things that the words are now kind of esoteric because they're not used that often, right? So, I mean, if you read stuff from the 1800s, Lord, even you read Civil War letters, you'll see that people, because their education was kind of classic, they have a vocabulary much larger than ours, and they're able to express emotions and other things slightly better than we are because our vocabulary isn't quite as,
like dyspeptic. Dyspeptic.
Exactly, like dyspeptic. That's the perfect.
Yeah, and I mean that would be a great way to describe an NPC, dyspeptic.
Yes.
And as far as your point, I mean every night I have a meditation that's straight out of the Castle Keeper's Guide, right? Oh, I'm totally lying, but it sounded funny when I thought it. It's like, yeah, I think that Troll Lord Games has probably encoded into their books a blueprint for life that, if you read it properly, will bring you prosperity and happiness.
But you have to go. You have to go up that mountain.
That mountain it's the Gygaxian mountain.
All the way up in the Himalayas. I want to go. Anyway, never mind.
The secret to life, the universe, and everything. 24. Dyslexic.
How many books were you involved with total with Dan, as far as with the actual series, the original series?
Direct involvement was, of course, World Builder, which we had just been speaking about, and then I had the idea of writing a book of plots, which is pretty much a storyteller's guide.
Yeah, I like
the approach. I'm glad. I
It's really, really good. I remember the first time I read it, okay, and I thought, okay, this is just a little bit too dense for me.
David,
Yeah, no.
What
it's
is
my
that?
dictionary. It's a dictionary.
Good God!
That's
That's before
what
the
you-
internet.
Before the
yeah,
internet.
that's what you'd have before the internet. That's what you would have beside you of reading the first edition D&D.
That's right.
Yeah. But that, yeah, Davis, I'm glad you enjoyed that. I remember one of the things that made it so difficult for me to write was because I didn't want to presume that those reading it didn't know how to tell a story, or that those reading it weren't already experienced at it. I didn't want to condescend. I didn't be like, this is how you do a proper adventure plot. I said, no, I'm going. I think this is one of the things I like about Gary's work too, is that it didn't seem like he sat down and thought, I'm going to write, assuming that the lowest common denominator of someone's ability to comprehend is going to be the baseline here. He wrote to people what was authentic to him, and you could, take it or leave it. He once said to me, if you please 10% of the people 10% of the time, you've done well.
Yeah.
Which, well, that's a whole nother discussion. That's an interesting thing to say. But when I wrote Book of Plots, it was in an attempt to make it accessible to any level of experience as a brainstorming guide, much like World Builder. And I think a lot of the material, even the way Yigsburg was written, saying, look, this is like put together in such a way that you can reassemble its parts in any way you wish, which a lot of games have that feature, that sandbox kind of feature. Here's all of the pieces and parts you can play with and rearrange. But it has that flavor, that breadth and scope and depth that we would expect from that.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah.
This,
No, it's a real.
this Book of
Go
Plots.
ahead.
Where did it end up at in the series?
I think it was the third.
It was the fifth.
Fifth.
I knew that. I was just testing you.
Well, the reason why I asked was we had one of our viewers, Hallgrath. He asked, "Is there a World Builder book, or any book for that matter, I suppose, that you wanted to write with Gary but didn't get a chance to do so before he passed?"
A sequel to the original. We had been compiling information back and forth. Yeah. And then he had to be really inconsiderate and die.
Shame on him. What was he thinking?
I actually have, Dan, I have a lot of those notes from World Builder 2 is what we were going to call it. And it was.
Oh, you do? That's wonderful.
Yeah. We were fixing to send the World Builder to the printers for the third time. It was to be a third print. And then in all of this mess you guys had started, there was chunks, I guess, that you both felt were missing from World Builder. And we thought, well, let's just keep doing this and do another one. So the World Builder 2 was decently along the way, I think.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, we had and now if you have those correspondences, you're the only one who does. Well, as of my saying it right at this moment, unless you send them to me, of course. Hello, I am a champion of stating the obvious.
And see, what I've got here is ship's cargoes drawn from the Bible, corrections. Let's see, then we got craftsmanship multiplier, falling speeds, how to use wood pipes. I got a small chunk, not a whole lot, but I got a small chunk. Maybe we should add this stuff to the existing World Builder now titled something or the other. Essential facts and things.
Yeah, essential facts.
The falling speeds. The falling speed. So that's why he wanted me to time myself as I jumped off the roof. I wasn't sure why.
Dad, can you
he was
just go up
asking
to
me
the
do-
tallest building in town and hop off?
See what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he said Davis would be there to time it, but Davis
yeah.
never showed up. And
Hey, I did see a question there. For those of you just joining us, we're running a Kickstarter. Hold on, Davis. We're running a Kickstarter for the World Builders Archive. This is Gary Gygax's Gygaxian Fantasy World Series Reborn, of which Dan Cross is an author, and he is editing the entire series for us and managing the series for us. It is on Kickstarter right now, and someone asked, I think it's DM John asked, what was the best pledge level, and I think
Yes, optimal. Yes.
for my money, it would be the 450. You get all the, at this point, 9 hardcover books and the PDFs. You get all the stretch rewards, and I'm 90% certain we will unlock the 10th book. So you'll get that as well. I think the 450 is where your best money is, and it's going to be 10 hardcover color books. So it's going to be a stout box when it arrives on your doorstep. You want to say something, Dave?
No, I forgot.
And
Relatable.
And John, to tag into that, I saw your other question about that, and I've got to get with Steve. I saw your comment in Discord. I will get with him, and we'll come up with a solution for that. Don't worry about it. I hear you.
What's the
Bergman Outlandish? We need a player map for it. All it's out there is
right? Okay, gotcha.
Do what?
not a big deal.
A player map?
Yeah.
You have a map in the book?
So they want a map without numbers on it, so the players can see the thing, but they don't know what corresponds to what.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 45 a book with PDFs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good price, actually, if you figure it
It's
out.
a very good price.
Yeah. And yeah.
Bergman Outland. I'm going to add to Bergman Outlandish too.
Did we have any more questions? Sure.
I don't have any right now in queue that were nothing other than that. Actually, we're good on that. I had some questions though, if that's okay.
Yes, fire.
Well, Dan, and this is more for Dan. I know about you two, Lutz, but for Dan, prior to working with Gary on that, what had you written? Had you done much writing, or where was you at with all that?
Well, I had written short stories.
Yeah. So
You
that
know,
was first
I
your
had-
really
I had-
big first publishing kind of gig, right? Sort of.
Yeah, definitely. I don't remember precisely the timeline, but I had been writing for almost a year, an adventure for Legendary Adventure. So
Okay.
that was probably my first largest writing project, which actually didn't get the opportunity to be published because the market conditions changed and nobody really after a certain time wanted something that was, I don't know, 6,000 pages. I'm kidding, it wasn't that big, but it was pretty big.
Okay,
Too big
so
for
it-
practicality at a certain point.
So you wrote an epic. That's what you
Um,
wrote. I'm hearing what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, I
So-
got I got to learn Legendary Adventure, which, boy, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but that's not what we're talking about. So I'm going to shut my mouth on that. Anyway, I enjoyed that process. Before
Yeah.
that, I did a lot of GMing for various game systems, like many of us. Like
Right.
10 years old, picking up the D&D box set, that common stories, like yes, the Larry Elmore red box set. Yes. And I do have a kind of a funny story. I had written an article and submitted it to Dragon Magazine with, I vaguely remember, like some cleric spell ideas or whatever, and it was rejected. So forever sealing my fate. No, just and I thought, well, that didn't work. So I wrote a letter just to like the letters section about some of my advice. I said, well, maybe they're more likely to publish it here, and they did in one issue in just the
Nice.
letters section. And I think I was, I don't know, 17, 18 years old.
Oh wow.
And I got a letter in the mail to my house because I published my address in this letter, which is not something I would have done today. And it was a letter of appreciation for the advice, which was succinct advice. Basically, it was something I had written down during a game session when I was bored because of how the flow was. I was such a jerk. But anyway, the thank you note was from somebody in jail.
There you go.
So I inspired a criminal somewhere. That's where I first got my taste for infamy, fame. I don't know. Yeah.
We used to actually get
Interesting.
lots of correspondence from prisoners. We don't much anymore, but we used to get quite a bit of
That's
correspondence.
because isn't it illegal to have dice in prison now or some shit?
I'm
I'm
sure
sure
it
it
was that. I remember very distinctly that was one of the. In fact, I sent Grace a little story time thing on that. I don't know if she's uploaded it or not, but one of the letters we got with this guy they had the games. It was D20. It was Dungeons and Dragons, and they were playing Line on the Ropes or something, and they needed advice on how to, because they couldn't have dice. So what could we do? And Mark Sandy, who was working for us at the time, and I've told this story many times, but he created 3 different, but the most memorable one is he cut this circular piece of paper, folded it 20 times, and put numbers in each of the folds, so you could hold it. You actually mounted
cool,
it.
yeah.
He built a little stand for it, and you put a cigarette in it, and you flicked your cigarette, so your cigarette would go around, and where it landed is what you got on the D20.
It
That's
was like a
pretty clever.
roulette table with a cigarette, and it would give you your random number.
I thought it was extremely clever that and we took the prototype and we sent it to the prisoner, whoever, and
That's awesome.
we never heard back. I have no idea. Poor guy probably never saw
No,
it.
no, we need to patent that.
Well,
Yes, let's
Touch
do
of
it.
Evil says that they both, it looks like they definitely talked about there was, they invented spinners in there. So that sounds about right.
So Mark invented the spinner long before it was a thing.
Yeah.
Nerds Martin walking off stage, and that's right, Ken Robinson.
DM John said,
DVDs can be found everywhere.
I just updated my pledge from 250 to 450. The wife is going to come after me with a rolling pin, improvised weapon, D4 -1 damage. And I said, at least it wasn't a CNC club, because that's the most powerful.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, DM John.
Thank you, John.
And any of you out there, if you haven't pledged, check the Kickstarter out, and please, if you have, share it. And if you haven't, share it. Let people know. I mean, it is a wealth of information. It's some 1,400 pages of world building content, a good percentage of which was written by Dan Cross here. And it is, I mean, it's just like Davis and I pointed at the beginning of the stream. I still have the books here in my desk drawer, and I use them all the time. The one I use the most is the World Builder. I use it all the time.
The CNC Club.
There you go.
This was a gift to Gary Kahn. Boom,
Tell you
boom,
what,
boom.
you guys print some beautiful books too. They are some quality. You got your own in-house printing, right? That's what you guys do. It's like this is
Anything soft cover we print, and anything hardcover, but we go the extra mile on our books, and we really don't pass this on to the customers. Our books are still cheaper than WotC stuff that is printed and not bound well, but we do Smyth's own binding. We have headbands on there that give and Smyth's own, the book blocks are glued to the headband, so they're stout. They're very, very stout.
they're beautiful.
Just an FYI, Kent was a scrivener in a past life.
I'm very, it's funny, Davis, because I'm reading this book here, Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. I haven't read it in 1,000 years,
Oh, wow.
but I was reading it last night, and the story's good. I'm enjoying the story, but after like 3 pages, I was, how sometimes you pay attention to what you're reading, sometimes you don't, whatever. And after 3 pages, I had read, I stopped and I thought, this is just a pleasure reading this book and turning the pages. It's done well, as they should be.
Yeah, I prefer hardbacks. It's easier to read a hardback than a paperback.
I've gone almost completely hardback. I'm slowly replacing most stuff.
Really?
I'm going to eBay and buying a couple of books a month in hardcover. Yeah.
I can't do it with my eyes the way they are anymore. I have to have a Kindle to zoom in and stuff. I can't do it. It's gotten me aggravated because I've got such great nonfiction here from when I was in school and stuff. Good stuff I picked up. And now I'm like, is there a Kindle version? Looking and stuff.
Do you wear glasses? Can't you get like glasses? You could join me and Davis. Well, Davis doesn't have his own.
So I have glasses, but I'm nearsighted, so up close I'm supposed to be able to read really well. But I'm telling you, man, at night and stuff, it just doesn't happen. I should probably look into buying some reading glasses, probably, to be honest with you.
What we should do is change the font in our book to 14 font or 20 font.
37 font.
Yeah, that's what he wants. That's what he wants for sure.
I want to be able to.
Then it could be used as a weapon. It would be so thick.
Right, 7,000 pages. Jeremy's right. I do remember when we switched the original Player's Handbook. The one we're selling now. The first printing was at 8.5 font.
Jesus.
It's very
Wow.
tiny. And I remember when we switched the PHB to 10 font, we were out in the game room gaming, and I gave everyone at the table the new, I don't know which, 6th printing, 7th printing, whatever it was.
Right.
And Davis got his, and he started to tear up because he was like, I couldn't read my book.
Can you imagine 8.5 font? An ant would have to wear glasses to read that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how if you lose your up close sight, sometimes it can feel like it happened practically overnight. And I was so skeptical. My optometrist was annoyed by me. Like, he's like, no, dude, no, you really need bifocals. Like, what
Well,
do you mean? So I have intermediate range reading glasses, but yeah, I'm glad the font is larger than that now.
Well-
Because your books are readable.
I got
nicely
tricked.
laid out.
I got tricked into working for this company because I thought that they were going to put their whole catalog, every book will be on Kindle. That's why I came to work for them. Turns out that's not the case. So I'm back to having this
You
shit
know,
at night. I'm looking.
We probably could do that
That
now.
was the MacGuffin.
When you came on board, Kindle was only accepting the Mobi files, the MOBI
Right.
files.
That's all changed now.
accept PDFs. I think they accept PDFs now.
They do because I've actually uploaded some of theirs. Yeah, I found a way to
Conversion?
upload them onto my Kindle. You can mail them to. It's really weird, but I will be honest with you. Some of the great art we have doesn't translate very well into Kindle. I will say that much about it. The black and white art does, but the color art not so
Well,
much.
that was the problem. Is it dismantled the tables?
Yeah,
when we went
that's true, too.
when we went from PDF to Mobi and then to the Kindle, it dismantled the tables and wouldn't use the art. So the book turned into this sort of like a slinky. When you've broken the slinky, it's just
Right.
It's just,
I got a couple.
I love technology. I like Kindles, and
Do you?
I read
I love
on
mine.
that as well. Yeah, the Paperwhite is a great thing. But when it comes to, like, if you think about like a beautiful encyclopedia set or something like that, that
No, that's different.
that has
Sure.
its own kind of
Well,
I gotta be
aesthetic, and that's
I got to be that guy because I'm getting less and less infatuated with technology. I was just telling the lady at the hardware store, I'm about ready to go back to 1985 and dial up and be done with all this mess.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Most of my books that I've kept from when I was growing up, we all grew up, right? Reading all these books years ago. I've got tons of them, but they've turned so yellow and everything, and I can't read. They're small.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
some
they
of them,
do.
you can't get them on Kindle no more, which is driving me insane because some of them are just freaking awesome. But it's like,
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Can't.
Getting a hold of some of these books now.
you can't, man. I've tried.
Yeah.
I have scorched the earth looking for stuff like Hiro's Journey, one of my favorite books.
Okay, Mariah Fish has got it right there. That's one of the pleasures of reading is that book smell.
She's right.
When you open a book, there's because the
Mhm.
type of paper they used, it's not glossy. It's one of the things I don't like about our books. We have to use gloss paper for the
Yeah.
art to pop. I don't like gloss paper. But in these old books, they didn't use gloss paper, and it was frequently newsprint, which made the book lighter. It made its binding tighter, and it had, after a few years, it has this really nice smell to it. I will say, I was at a comic book store once, and years ago, and there's two kids standing next to me.
1968.
Absolutely. So
Sorry.
I pulled this Silver Age. That guy pulled a Silver Age comic book, and I was looking at it, and I held the comic book up, and I said, "Man, I love that old newsprint smell." And the kid standing next to me, looking his Image comic or Spawn or whatever it was, he said, "Oh yeah, you mean that cat piss smell? Is that what you love?"
The mold filter and cat piss.
I would say that child was mistaken.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I have an
Or
actual
he
paper
kept
copy,
his
but
books
it's just
too near the
you know.
litter box or something.
Well, good news is they're going to be re-releasing that Sterling Lanier stuff on Kindle, according to Manfred. So I'll have my
good.
Gamma World setting back in the books to read
Oh.
again. So that's good.
That's
Couple
great.
questions here. This one's for Davis. I'm going to ask it because
What?
Ken Robinson asked, and which pile of books is your need to read pile? The one on your left or the one on your right behind you?
Need to read?
Yeah, so clearly you're bringing them in, you're reading them, then they're going up on the shelf, right? That's what's happening here, right?
The
Sure. What do you say,
Sure.
David?
Shua! There's not a really need to read If there's a need to read, I'll show you the need to read file.
Oh Lord.
Oh my God.
It's-
The
it's-
stream's been
What
extended for an
Pandora
hour, folks. No. We'll be here at
That's the
9
file.
p.m.
Oh,
Waiting.
see that?
What's on the top of it? What's the top title?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the top title is.
I'm leaning in like it's going to matter. I don't know what.
Distant Mirrors.
Candide.
Okay, Distant Mirrors, America as a Foreign Culture. The most dangerous places in the world.
You know, honestly, you might be a bibliophile, Steve, but he's just as much of a bibliophile as you are in his own way.
So a funny thing.
Decline the Hobbit.
So there you go, the German version of The Hobbit. So growing up was
Wow.
funny with Davis. It's, you know, when we were kids, we shared a room. There was a whole bunch of us. So Davis and I shared a room. And I read, in those days, I read Tarzan, John Carter, you know, whatever, Zant, all kinds of fantasy tapes. And Davis read a lot of fantasy too and science fiction. But he also read a huge amount of philosophy. He would be sitting there yammering on about Nietzsche or whoever. And I'd be like, dude, but Tarzan just killed this man. So it was,
Mariah, I'll answer that question. Yes, we all read prolifically. I read every night before I go to bed, and I know these guys read a ton too. So absolutely. DM John has a question that Dan and Steve can answer, I guess. Will there be anything that covers runes and symbology, like magical or otherwise, in the books? I've only seen 2 of them. So
No.
First, I want to answer Mariah's.
sorry.
Yeah, I read a lot. I read just about at any chance I get. I will stop and read 2 pages. If I get really pissed off at Troller Games, I will stop, read a couple of pages, and catch my breath.
No, it's good. That's a good way of doing it. Yeah, for sure.
King Kothar says Tarzan would kick Nietzsche's ass. He's got a point, David.
Oh my
Already?
goodness.
I got to go in like 3 minutes. So what was the question?
Runes.
Will there be anything that
Symbology.
covers runes and symbology, magical or otherwise?
I don't know, Dan. I don't think that's in World Builder, is it? I don't think
No.
there's.
No, and I think there's a reason for that. One is that that's a fantastic idea, and I know that there's other books like that I'm not sure about just RPGs in general, but I just love that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
But just like with weapons and armor, I'd want that to be pretty well illustrated.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean that sounds like a really great thing to include in another volume. I don't know if it was touched upon thematically. I don't think in the World Builder that we went heavily into that kind of thing. He went extensively into magic and different permutations of magic and different different ways to almost generically do that. And of course, glyphs and sigils and wards and all that sort of thing is well known. But to do a proper treatment of those subjects, heck, I don't know if I haven't actually seen the finalization of the consensual places just yet. But as part of that series, as part of that whole world, I could see that being a really cool addition to, if not the Gygaxian archives, then as part of your world. I mean, your world of art in general incorporates a lot of what Gary had, even like Gaxmore and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there's many cultural influences in that.
Huh.
I mean, is one of you an expert in like Norse runic language and stuff like that? I know you've published books, like you've published a lot of culturally focused books.
Yeah, actually,
for CNC.
Finley Clayton, who is our editor now, he's in the process of overhauling the mythology series. He's got his master's degree in Norse mythology and all of that stuff. So, yeah, he will be bringing that all. We're going to redo all of these books. Codex Germania, Codex Nordica, Classicum is going to be split into 2. All this will be redone, and I think he's mostly done with Germania and working on Finnica next, and then it's off to Greece, I think is what he's going to do after that one.
Oh, that would be nice.
So a couple of comments before I bail. Nietzsche would say, "Mein Gott, die Übermensch." That's exactly what Nietzsche would say as Tarzan pummeled him to death
With his jacket on at the same time.
Tarzan was famous for just hanging people, and as they walked through the forest, he'd drop a noose around him and just lift him into the trees and kill him. He was not, and the chivalric knight. So the question, Davis, Conan versus, and Davis and I've had this conversation many times. Conan versus Tarzan, who wins? I don't know, man. In the jungle, I'm gonna give it to Tarzan. Maybe on the open plains, maybe Conan.
The thing is, so people misunderstand. We're not talking about the comic book Conan. We'll talk about the actual Conan,
Right.
who wore armor almost all the time.
Yes.
Okay, so it would be really, really difficult for Tarzan to get in.
Yeah, Tarzan wore armor never.
Yeah, I mean, he was completely
Never.
naked all the time.
He's
So
mostly naked. Yes.
yeah,
Mariah Fish has got a question I want to ask for you. Hop off. We're going to end here in just a second anyway, but it says, do you remember the first book you were absorbed by? What kindled the passion?
Oh yeah, it was Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar. I bought that book, and I absolutely fell in love with the character Tarzan, who was decisive, brutal. I shouldn't say brutal, but primeval. He was primeval. He was decisive. He was the perfect character for me when I was whatever. I can't remember what. I do remember when I was reading it. I was in the 4th grade, and some kid took my copy because I was reading it, and he scratched it. He took this
Really?
pencil, he just took he gored out a huge chunk into it.
Yeah.
We couldn't fight much where I was, so I took all of his homework and threw it in the dumpster, and he got zeros on everything.
I remember getting a copy of The Black Coast, the Queen of the Black Coast, when I was in, I think I was in middle school. I think I was in like 7th grade. And all I can remember is I got the book. I read probably about 80% of it. I read it in like 2 days. Like I wanted to stay up at night and read it. And my mom was like, no, you got to, And then there was like 20 pages missing in the middle of the damn book, like toward the end. And I was so distraught. I went for like 2 years where I was able to get my own copy of it. And I had to wait to find out the end. It was awful.
Oh,
But that was
That's crazy.
That was what really
That
drove
would
me
be
into
torture.
reading, and then led me on to other stuff. Of course, like we all did, right? Of course.
I
that was-
actually had my book.
cat in a hat.
yeah.
Cat in the
Hat for you,
Hat,
Dan.
So the first book I read was Early Bird Gets the Worm. That was
Oh God! Now we're gonna go back to that again. Oh my God! I haven't heard that in like 2 years. Wow. Or some
I
shit.
actually have all my books that I had as a kid. The first book that I ever read too was
Really?
Dinosaurs. Yeah, I have. They're
I was told it was hustling. I guess
they're
I'm wrong.
somewhere. They're actually somewhere. I kept them. I found them in a trunk the other day. Oh wait!
Hey, I got to split.
Yeah, we'll see, Steve. We
Dan,
don't-
thanks
okay.
for joining us today. I'll leave you all to your
Now,
chat.
we're getting ready to do the giveaways. I gotta get out here too. My wife's.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yes, I absolutely remember that.
What did
book.
that say? What did that say?
I
And
do
the
have
little-
to.
The little tiny rooster.
Oh my God.
There's the little house thing that gets taken out to the country.
Yeah.
And then there was one that Zane had about these kids who run away and build forts in the woods. I can't remember the name of it.
Yes, that was a good one.
All right, I'm out, everybody.
We'll
Wolf
see you, buddy.
Alone, Death, Ryan, thanks, and I will talk to you all later.
All right. See you.
I have to jet as well.
Yeah, Dan, I wanted to thank you for coming on, taking your time to do that. I know you're busy. We're going to close it down right now anyway. I want to thank everybody for coming out and watching and asking the questions you did.
Bye.
We just really want to get that out there to let people know. And thanks for all your questions as well, Mariah, and everybody else. It's good. We like the interaction. It's good. I'm going to switch over and do the giveaways real quick. If there's anything else you want to say, Dan, you can. If not, you're good. You can leave when you want. It won't take us but a minute here, but I'm going to switch over and do that real fast.
Farewell.
Farewell. Good sir.
All right.
Let's do these giveaways real quick. All right, we're going to
What are you
do.
giving away?
I'm giving away two $15 codes for the store and a $25. So we're going to do that right now.
Wait,
Close.
two 15s and a 25.
Yep.
I think you should give away something that
Thanks,
we
Aries.
don't have in stock, just to make Kent mad.
Oh no, he's not in a good mood today. I don't want to do that. Me and him has been battling work all day today. It's been awful. So I got to be good about it. You're a prankster, sir.
I'm gonna go find something that's not in stock.
Ken Robinson won $15. There you go, Ken. Ken, you just got to go to our Discord, hit up Obsidian Risk. He'll be in there on the right-hand side and under community. If you can't find him, ask around, tag him. He'll get you a code. And the next winner is going to be Wolf Alone. Of course, he's a regular. You know the deal on that, Wolf. Just trot on over and bug him. And then for the $25, DM Chris, 1972. So, Chris, if you'll hit up Obsidian Risk in our Discord, he'll get you the code. that's the easiest way for us to deal with it. I used to deal with them, but it got way overloaded for me. But anyway, just want to thank everybody for coming out, hanging out. We enjoyed it. It was fun. It's good to be back after Gary kind of getting back in the swing of things. I will be running a game Saturday morning for us on my channel. And Jingo, Ship of Fools, he will be back on his channel Sunday. Here is the Twitch schedule if you guys want to check that out. But we'll all be back to running our games this weekend, doing some things, hanging out with you guys. It'll be good to get back in the swing of things. Oh, that's all right, Chris. Good enough you're here, buddy. That's awesome. Congrats to all the winners. I'm going to set us up a raid right now, maybe. Let me see. I got to make sure and see if Dave's on. I'm just going to think he's on, though. If he's not, we'll just jet out of here. Yeah, it looks like he's not on today, so we'll just jet out of here. I want to thank everybody again for coming out and seeing us. We'll catch you this weekend. Troza! And go back that Kickstarter if you haven't. We'd really appreciate it.
All right. Out.